those are some things that I've seen recently at clinics. So I've had a few people who are actually breathing too early in their freestyle. So the head is going before the rotation of their shoulders. And I think it sometimes comes from when people making sure they don't want to breathe too late, because that's a really common thing as well. But if you turn your head too early, then it can actually throw the rest of your stroke out and make things a little bit awkward. So what I would aim for there, and good timing of your breathing, is turn your head along with the rotation of your shoulders as you go out to breathe, and then bring it back with the rotation of your shoulders. Now, your head is going to have to turn more than your shoulders, because if you turn your shoulders to 90 degrees, well, it's going to be too much. But you want to turn it at the same time to initiate it, and then turn the head that little bit further to get the breath, and then come back along with that shoulder rotation. So I had a swimmer who I did a session with, and he was breathing just way too early. Head was turning before the shoulders had gone, and it was really impacting his ability to get a good catch and to keep things well aligned and straight and streamlined. So when he got the breathing in sync with the rest of his rotation, then everything just kind of came together. So that was a bit of a bottleneck for him that was stopping him from progressing and achieving some of the other things that we were trying to do. So sometimes there's a little thing in the stroke like that that can actually be stopping some other things falling into place. So it's always good to see or try and check what that might be. And a good order to follow things in is, so the 5 core principles that we have inside the membership. Like, follow those along in terms of breathing. We want to get that right first. Then we can move on to head and body position and those sorts of things as well. Now, another thing that I've seen recently as well is kicking. Now, we know if you're doing any sort of open water swimming or triathlon, your kick is more there to support you and balance you, and not to provide much propulsion. However, your kick can also be there can kind of work against you sometimes. So I did a session with a young kid. He was doing almost like a 3-beat kick. He was just doing a kick on one stroke, and then this sort of 2 kicks on the other stroke. So it's kind of like a 3-beat kick. And it was okay, but it wasn't really working very well for him. So his upper body was looking pretty good. His catch was quite good, especially on one arm. He had the right rotation. He was breathing well, but he just was lacking a little bit of connection through the stroke. And one thing that we saw was that his kick was just not really connecting very well with the rest of his stroke. So what I had him do was try and do a more of a 4-beat kick and really get into the tempo and the mantra of it. And for a 4-beat kick, you can sort of think of it in sort of 2 ways. It's typically going to be 1 kick on one leg, or so 1 kick on one stroke, and then 3 kicks on another. And so the tempo or the mantra in your mind can be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's the timing of the kick. But there's another way that you can think of that timing, and I see it depending on the different swimmer. The other way that people sometimes do it is it's like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's that break in between, because they're only going to do 1 kick on one stroke, and there's going to be a bit of a delay or a pause while they're kind of riding that out and then getting into the next stroke. So either one of those tempos for a 4-beat kick can work, and it just depends on what works best for you. Now, I saw with this young kid that when he was going easy, anything easier than 80%, he had the 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. When he picked up the pace, it was a little bit more continuous. So it was the 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So similar thing, but there's basically a little bit less of a break after the 3 kicks there. So it's a good thing to play around with and develop your kick, especially if you're not doing a typical 6-beat kick. If you know that in a wetsuit, you might have a 2-beat kick, maybe you do a 4-beat kick. It can be good to experiment with some of those things and just to find what works. And I actually found with him, he did 36.5 with the better kick for a 50, and he did 37.8 for his standard kick at the same effort. And he actually took 3 less strokes with the different kick as well. So we can see that the result was pretty positive. A second and 1.3 seconds difference for a 50 is a big improvement there. So it's always good to just assess with the kick. And he said, I'm not kicking any harder, I'm not trying any harder, but it just feels like everything is much better connected and the rhythm is there and it's a bit easier. And you could see it when he was swimming. It was night and day between the two different ones. So that's something that's always good to check in with. Now, the next one is just in terms of what the things that make you tired. So if you're relatively new and you feel like you get gassed out a lot quicker than what you should, a lot quicker than what your general fitness should allow, it's usually from the way that you breathe, kicking too hard, and not feeling like you are relaxed and comfortable in the water. So it's usually a combination of those couple of things. And I did a session with someone recently, and he was kind of getting tired after 50 meters, sometimes 100 meters, and generally fit guy, but was just struggling to push past that 50-meter distance without needing a break at the end. So the first thing that we did was just work on getting comfortable with the breathing. So what I noticed was he was breathing in too hard and out too hard, trying to take in too much air. So we just worked on smaller inhales, smaller exhales. You don't need to get that much air in to be feeling like you've got enough air. Like, it just doesn't have to be that much. The other thing was I got him to do some sink downs. So it's where we go to the end of the pool, take a breath in, and then exhale everything. So there's nothing in the lungs, and you'll find yourself sinking to the bottom of the pool. Once you've emptied the lungs, you jump up, get another breath, and then you exhale again and sink to the bottom. And I find that can just get people to calm down and relax and just be okay with feeling like they haven't got much air when they're swimming, as opposed to that short and shallow upper chest breathing. The other thing I got him to do there was just to work on floating and feeling the lungs, or the lungs support or provide the buoyancy. So your lungs are what fills with air. It's like pushing a balloon down into the water. If they're pushed down into the water, then they want to come up. So by practicing just like a ball float, where you take a big breath in, you tuck into a ball, you hold yourself there. That way you'll feel yourself floating at the surface of the water, no matter what your buoyancy profile is, no matter how tall you are, how short you are, everyone can float in that position. So I got him to do a little bit of that and just feel that support through the lungs. And then we did a little bit of swimming, where I had him just lean on his chest and practice just pressing that chest into the water, almost where your sternum is, and getting used to using that for that balance and support. Now, what happened initially was that he was ducking, or he's pushing his head too deep as well as pushing or leaning on his chest. So he found it hard to get a breath. So I just made sure that the top of his head was just above the surface of the water as he was swimming while he was leaning on his chest. And that made it a lot easier for him to turn to breathe to the side and then come back down. So we worked on that. Then we also just worked on holding the right posture. So like Tracy Bowman talked about last week, let's get your head away from your shoulders. We want that tall and that proud posture. And that allowed him to just get out of his legs, to take that effort out of the kick, which he was doing too much of, because then he had better balance in the water. So there's much less of a need to be kicking hard. So going in that order of the breathing, the posture, then can help with the legs, rather than just thinking about trying to back off or be easier with the legs. And the last one is, and I heard Dan Smith mention this. So Dan Smith, he's featured in one of our most watched videos on YouTube, where he does a 1 minute 10 for 100 meters, but it looks like he's going at 2 minute pace. I was chatting to him recently, and he was saying that like one of the things he gets his swimmers to think about, and he thinks about when he swims, is when you're about to start your stroke, your catch out in front, you want to be on that side. So let's say you're going to begin your right arm catch, you want to be on your right side, which makes sense. Then as you go through your catch and you're about to begin your pull, as you're coming under your shoulders, you want to start to rotate from there. And then as you release out the back, you're going to be opening up through the hips and releasing there. So you're on one side to start, you're on the other side to finish. Now, it seems obvious when you talk about it like that, but what I see with a lot of swimmers, and I've been doing some follow-up filming videos and some filming with people who have come to clinics, and I've seen it with a few of them where they've been on their side for too long through the stroke. So they kind of get stuck on their side, and they've gone through their catch, they've gone through their power diamond when their hands passed under their shoulders, and then they start to rotate back. But by then it's too late. And so their arm kind of gets stuck underneath them. They get this wriggle or this snaking through the hips and through the body, and it really throws their timing out. Now, conversely, I've also had a few swimmers who are doing it the other way, where they're starting to rotate too early. So they're on their side as they're going to begin their catch, but they start rotating back to the other side immediately. And what I was seeing there was when I was looking at their front on view, rather than being flat or back to neutral as their hand has passed underneath their shoulder, they were already on their other side, which was too early. But if you look at any really good swimmer, you look at the footage that we've got of Andy Donaldson, Kia Melverton, Dan Smith, you'll see they're pretty much back to neutral or close to it as their hands passing under their shoulder. They're not already on that other side. Because if you're on your other side, you're not really anchored in the water very well with your arm. So getting the timing of the rotation right can make a really big difference. So think about it as you want to be on your side as you're beginning your catch. That way you can anchor with that arm once you're down in the catch. Once you've anchored, then you can start to rotate back to the other side, and you're on your other side as you release out the back with that hand. So getting that timing right is another one that I've seen quite a bit of lately, and trying to get that dialed in as well. Now, some things that I've bought recently, which have made a big difference to my swimming. The first one is custom earplugs. So I used to use these $10 Zogs earplugs, they're okay, but I still got a lot of water in. I was always fiddling with them, and it just wasn't very reliable. So I went to a place in Melbourne called Earlab, and this isn't sponsored or anything. I went to Earlab. They did a custom mold of my ear or both ears, and then I just got some custom earplugs, and they stay in without needing to have a cap over the top. So I don't even need to wear a cap to keep these things in, and they stop the water, 99% of the water getting in. So they're really reliable. And not only has that been great for in the pool, but also in the ocean. So it's pretty cold down here. It's about 13 degrees, 14 degrees Celsius in the water at the moment when I go for an open water swim. And I used to hate that feeling of getting really cold water in my ears. And you get this bone growth as well that kind of covers your ear so you can't hear as well. That happens over time. So one thing I didn't want to do was keep doing this cold water swimming without any ear protection. So getting some custom earplugs has made a massive difference to my enjoyment of swimming out in the open water, but also just in training in the pool, because it used to just really bug me where I'd get water stuck in there for half a day. And it was never an issue when I was younger, but the last 4 years, it's really become a bit of an issue. So some custom earplugs was money well spent. And they cost a couple $100, but the amount of times I swim, to me, that's been a good investment. So I've actually recommended that to a couple other people, and they're getting some done as well. So it depends if you have issues with water stuck in your ear, but these ones are great. Now, the next thing that I've bought recently, and I bought this about a month ago, is a chin-up bar just for home. So I got from Base Blocks. It's called the Big Bar, and it's a chin-up bar, and it's also got some dip bars coming off that as well. And I got that because on a recent podcast, one of the guests was talking about how he started doing a lot of dead hangs from a chin-up bar. And I'd started to do a little bit of that. I was already doing some chin-ups and things like that. I was getting a little bit stronger, but not really progressing as much as I'd like. So I got a chin-up bar for home, and I got this big bar, and every day I'll go out there a couple times a day in between analyzing videos or doing a YouTube video or doing a podcast, and just go through a sequence of exercises. And in the last 4 weeks, I have made huge improvements on not only just overhead strength and on dead hangs and chin-ups, but also progressing with some core exercises. So being able to hold on and then lift both legs up vertically to touch the bar and come back. I can do 4 or 5 of those now, whereas before I couldn't do any. But the other thing I noticed was I went to the playground with my kids last week, and this was the first time in my adult life where I've been able to actually go across the monkey bars. Before that, I just couldn't support myself. I wasn't strong enough to do it. So in the space of about 4 weeks, I've managed to make pretty big gains in upper body strength. And I'm starting to feel it now in my swimming. I did notice that because I've started doing more of this, it was quite tiring, and I was feeling pretty fatigued and not tight through my shoulders, but just fatigued through my lats and back when I was going to training. But I'm starting to get on the other side of it now, where I've got that base level of strength, and now it's starting to result in some better times in the pool, especially for shorter stuff, 25s, 50s, and that sort of thing, and hundreds as well. So I feel like I've kind of gotten slower over the last 4 weeks. Well, I've had to build this strength, and I'm turning up to training pretty fatigued and heavy. But now I'm starting to come out the other end of that. So that's been money well worth spending on a chin-up bar for home. I didn't want to secure anything to the wall because I just don't trust my handyman skills to be able to do that. So getting this base, it's called the Big Bar from Basebox, has been a really good investment. The next one is anti-fog goggles. So I actually got sent a pair of these, just pretty basic goggles, but the person who sent them to me said like the anti-fog on these is meant to be like 8 times or 10 times better than your standard pair of goggles. It's meant to last a lot longer. And one of the things that really bugged me when I was going on these trips, like to the Galapagos Islands, to the Whitsundays, we're doing these beautiful open water swims, so much sea life and coral and things to see, but my goggles would be quite foggy. That really irritated me. So he sent me some goggles, and I took them to the Whitsundays trip at the start of June, which is up in Queensland, doing some swims there. And the visibility that I had with these goggles was amazing. They just didn't fog at all. And that was a big contrast to the goggles that I'd normally wear. And normally I'd get a pair of goggles, and after 2 to 3 swims, they would start to fog up after 5 to 10 minutes. These ones I've worn, how many times now? Probably 20 plus times, if not more. And they're still as clear as they were on the day I got them. And it's just, I love swimming in the pool. I love swimming in the ocean with them because I can just see so much. So it's been a massive difference with just, again, my enjoyment of swimming, having these fog-free goggles that actually work. It's the first time I've actually had goggles that have actually lasted for more than a couple of swims. So I'm talking with the person who sent me these goggles and just seeing if we can do a deal there where I can get these goggles for cheaper, and if we do like a big order, and then we can get them cheaper for you guys. So I'll keep you updated with that if you're interested in it, especially if you swim open water and you do like to kind of see to be able to see what's beneath you and see the buoys easier. I think it's, again, well worth spending some money on these things. The fourth one is actually a magnesium product that when I went to Thailand last year, one of the coaches who came on the trip, Mitch Kibbe, he's a close mate of mine, he gave me some magnesium powder at night. And I tried that because I'd normally have like magnesium tablets just from like the supermarket. He gave me some magnesium powder from Pillar, and like, I was like, oh man, I slept like a log last night. Like I just feel like I'm rejuvenated in the morning. So I bought some of this magnesium powder and just started having this 30 minutes before bed, and just started doing that a couple of weeks ago. And it's been terrific with just how I wake up in the morning, feel refreshed. I feel like I've had a really deep sleep and I'm ready to go in the morning. So I actually contacted them and I said, look, I love this stuff. Would you like to sponsor the podcast? Because I use it already and I think it's a really good product. And they've jumped on board. So depending on when you're listening to this, they're a new sponsor of our podcast for the next couple of months. So if you want to try a good quality magnesium product, then I'd recommend check these guys out. I've found a big difference with it. So I'd highly recommend it. And I approached them because I was already using the product itself. Now, the one thing that we've just started doing is I've just released the ES Squad. So if you're a member, you will have already seen this, but the ES Squad, each week I'm providing 3 workouts, and there's 2 different levels. And level 1 is between 1 to 2 kilometers per session. Level 2 is between 2 to 3 kilometers per session. And in this ES squad, we're just providing you with workouts that you can take to the pool and follow along with. So if you're not sure what you should be doing in order to get fitter and faster and improve your stroke and your efficiency, you can follow along with these workouts. Each month, I've structured it as the first week is a test and technique week. So you'll go through a bit of a test set on the first session, and then you'll go through 2 primarily technique-based sessions, which will focus on different aspects of your stroke. And then the next 3 weeks within the month will build upon each week. So within 4 weeks, you've got a test and technique week. Then 2, 3, 4, you're progressively building up on the sessions that you would do the week before. And then we'll sort of go back, retest, and start again each month. And this sort of structure can really just help you obviously track your improvement and track your progression, but it can also just help you build that fitness and strength and knowing exactly what to do. And what I wanted to make sure was clear on there is each of the workouts has, I wouldn't say a lengthy description, but I wanted to explain exactly what you should focus on for the drills and in each set, because I find what a lot of sets or workout planning is lacking is the description behind why you're doing it, what you should be focused on, and what the goal is. And so what I try and do if I'm ever coaching a squad or you're running a session is make it clear on why we're doing something, what the key things would be to actually focus on there, and how you can approach it, and maybe what you should feel or what times and paces you should be doing. So that's what I've done here with the ES squad. So we've just released our first month. What I've done, if you're listening to this, you can go in and try it. I've set up a coupon code for podcast listeners. Put the code SQUAD in when you go to join the Effortless Swimming membership. That'll give you 50% off the first month, and that'll bring it down to $16 for the first month there. So if you want to go and try out the ES squad, put squad in the checkout page there if you want to try it and join our squad. Because I find a lot of people have asked, what should I be doing in my workouts? How do I incorporate good workouts with working on my technique? We've taken care of that with these ES squads. So I'd love for you to try it. Get your feedback, and we're just going to continue to make these workouts better and more effective, and just continue to build from there. And the last thing is the camps that we've got planned for this year and next year. So one thing that I really love to do is going away on trips and meeting new people and being able to coach people in these great locations and destinations. So next year, we've got quite a few that we'll be running. There'll be more details coming very soon. And once I do have these camps available for booking, I'll let you know. But so far, we've got the Maldives and Thailand in September and October. They're fully booked at the moment, so you won't be able to get on those. But for next year, we're going to have a Galapagos trip in May, and Olympic coach and New Zealand swimmer Gary Hurring is going to run that trip. And Gary and I have worked together for the last couple of years with our Maldives trips and our Thailand trips. So he's going to run that camp over there. And that I went on that trip this year in May. One of the most amazing experiences that I've ever had. So if you've wanted to get to the Galapagos Islands and just see some of the turtles, the iguanas, the seals, the sharks, the fish, absolutely amazing over there. So I wanted to put that on again for next year. So that will be in late April, I think, 2025. So I'll have more details about that soon. We're going to run 2 trips in the Whit Sundays. One will be our normal camp where you do 2 to 3 kilometers a swim. We went there again this year. Amazing fish and coral and sea life, stingrays, turtles, so much stuff there, and a beautiful location in Australia. So it's along the Great Barrier Reef there. So we're going to run one normal trip and then a distance trip as well. So for anyone who's training for events that are a bit longer, 5K, but probably more your sort of 10 to 20K, this trip will be for you. And there'll be a certain criteria that you'll have to meet to be able to join this trip, because there's going to be quite a bit of swimming for this a 5 or 6 day trip. So you will want to have some Ks under your belt, and it's probably going to be a minimum of a sort of 145 pace for a K. So you need to be able to hold 145 for a kilometer to be able to join that trip. So there will be some qualifications there. Then later in the year, we will have Maldives, Thailand, and then 1, potentially 2 trips in Europe. So I know a lot of our European listeners have asked if we'll go over there. So we'll have 1, possibly 2 trips over there, most likely for October, potentially November. And again, we'll have more details to come soon. But we've got a big year of camps next year. So if you'd like to join us on any of those, we will have those details coming out soon on our website. So this has been a little bit of a sort of catch-up episode, but thanks so much for listening. When I first started this podcast, I didn't know who would want to listen and how we'd go, but that was over 10 years ago. And now just the amount of people that I see at the pool or at clinics who say, I listen to the podcast, that means a lot to me. So thank you very much for listening.